This is
Make it plain.
Make it plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
Ladies and gentlemen, obviously in the past 24 hours, we've seen wall-to-wall coverage of the historic Trump indictment, the first president to be federally indicted. And so obviously Trump himself, his supporters on social media, and right-wing Fox News are responding in a way that is not unexpected. The latest piece by our friend, senior fellow at Media Matters, Matt Gertz, Fox response has been unhinged demagoguery. We've got Matt Gertz joining us now to talk to us all about it. Matt, how are you, buddy? You been up all night?
I'm doing well. Good to be back.
Glad to have you. Have you been up all night?
Not all night. I got some sleep in between the sort of immediate cacophony last night and then whatever is left for the morning. But it's been a long week.
Yeah, it has. It's been a crazy week. So talk to us, summarize for us, what has the response kind of been from Fox in the past 24 hours?
Honestly, at this point, you can pretty much set your watch to how Fox responds to these. After all, this is the president's first federal indictment, but it's not his first criminal indictment. He was indicted in a New York court a couple of months back. And over the summer, the FBI searched his Mar-a-Lago resort, finding the classified documents that are at issue in the current federal indictment. So at this point, Fox sort of has a pattern of how they respond to these major legal problems for the former president. And they rush to his aid immediately. You see within minutes, the network's hosts denouncing the charges as a dark day for America, an attack on the American Republic. You see a long list of Trump's closest allies, his lawyers, his former aides, coming on the network to lend their support. The effect is to create a sort of field for the former president to keep his supporters on board, let them know that there's nothing to see here, that the president didn't do anything wrong. It's all just the Democrats trying to destroy him. And in turn, this prevents the former president's Republican presidential rivals from really trying to use this as a way of diminishing his political stature. So the effect is to keep him in control of the Republican Party.
Yeah. Now, what I've also seen is flashbacks from other reporting, particularly when he was on with Sean Hannity, and Sean Hannity was trying to help him. You and I talked about this in the past, but Sean Hannity was trying to help him through the interview. And even during the course of that interview, Trump was incriminating himself about the classified documents. And yet, it was clearly uncomfortable. Hannity was trying to help him. And then, strangely enough, Hannity is saying, I guess it was last night, that this was a dark day for America. I think we have that audio courtesy of Media Matters. Let me see if we can play that.
But as FoxNews.com reports, these payments, they weren't direct payments. Instead, they were made, quote, through so many different bank accounts that investigators would not be able to unravel this for at least 10 years. Now, again, these are allegations made by a confidential human source. That's the 1023 form we've been talking about, who has worked with the FBI for years, trusted by the FBI. The FBI paid this individual $200,000 for some of his intel. And yet, as far as we know, the DOJ is not pursuing a case against Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, the big guy, or anybody. Instead, it's his Republican challenger, Donald Trump, who is now facing the wrath of the DOJ surrounding the storage of documents from his very own presidency. Yes, it is a dark day in America. We've said it often. There's no equal justice. There's no equal application of our laws. There's one set of rules for Democrats, another set of rules for Donald Trump and conservatives, and anybody, especially in his orbit. Our system of justice has now been weaponized beyond belief, and this country is in serious trouble. We're going to have breaking coverage of this indictment all throughout the hour and developments as they happen.
Of course, he's referring to the allegations that they've been pushing about Joe Biden and why he should be indicted. But there you have it. That's a perfect example of the demagoguery you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the argument here from Trump, from Republicans, from his supporters at Fox News is, in the end, pretty simple. It's that he is above the law and that allegations about him should not be followed. I mean, this is a pretty straightforward case when you come down to it. Donald Trump took documents with him when he left the White House and brought them to his Mar-a-Lago estate. When government officials contacted him and tried to get him to return them, he did not do so. Eventually, there was a federal grand jury subpoena for classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, which the former president's lawyers took and brought together some of the documents that were at Mar-a-Lago and returned them. But then the FBI discovered that some documents still had not been returned. And that led to the search warrant that turned up a new trove of classified documents. The former president has not denied that he had documents. He simply said it was fine for him to have them. This is actually, so straightforward that you have former Attorney General Bill Barr, of all people, saying that it poses a real serious legal risk to Donald Trump. And so the idea that there is some sort of conspiracy at foot, that this is, an unfair application of the law, just doesn't seem to add up based on everything we know right
No, it certainly doesn't. It certainly doesn't add up at all. Some of the other Fox characters that we heard from since this is former Trump aide Stephen Miller.
Is it possible that Democrats have just tipped Pandora's box politically?
Well, I sure hope that that's exactly what happens. That the whole of the Republican Party, the whole of the conservative movement, and the whole of the country that cares about the rule of law coalesces around President Trump in this moment. Let me first say on a personal note, as someone that was there with President Trump in 2016, flying all around the country, going state to state, that served in the White House every single day for all 4 years of the administration, this is a sad day for me personally, as someone who has so much affection and so much admiration for President Trump, who has seen him up close and personal and what a heart he has for this country. And let me also say that I believe history will record today as the day that we ceased to be a democratic republic and we became a people ruled by an unelected government bureaucracy. You have the Department of Justice deciding who can be president and who cannot be president.
That Stephen Miller, again, former Trump advisor. Here is Mark Levin.
Endless meetings with Biden's, with Hunter Biden's business partners. Bob Alinsky, who ties Joe Biden to the crimes. Mr. Big, Mr. 10%. And what does Biden say? Well, then where's the money? He's asking us, come and catch me if you can. The idea that this man isn't under a criminal investigation and that they criminalized that damn document case to go after Donald Trump.
Your colleague at Media Matters, that was Mark Levin again, by the way, folks on Fox. Your colleague at Media Matters, Matt, Andrew Lawrence, Deputy Director of Rapid Response, tweeted in response to Mark Levin's rant, giving myself an aneurysm over an indictment I haven't read yet. Has anybody called to do a wellness check on Levin? Because he sounds like he might have had a stroke.
I mean, that is very intense for television. That is not a particularly healthy way to live your life, I would think.
Oh, and did you hear him say, folks, don't be fooled by the cable channels. You're a cable channel. If that's not projection and self-incrimination, I don't know what is. But, also, Matt, we've talked about, Fox it's still in recovery from the lawsuit settlement, the firing of Tucker. Does this, if anyone in their base has kind of been on the fence about them lately, this rant and raving kind of gives them an opportunity to try and go and get some of that base back, doesn't it?
That's exactly right. I mean, ever since Tucker Carlson was fired by Fox, the network's ratings have taken a huge plunge, something like 50% in Tucker's time slot and about a third off of prime time altogether. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of people who had previously been watching Fox and now have tuned out, have moved to a competitor like Newsmax or stopped watching altogether. And what an attack on Donald Trump, as they call it, does for Fox News is it gives the network an opportunity to just show its loyalty to him. And in turn, to try to bring some of those recalcitrant viewers back into the fold. So, the relationship between Trump and Fox has always been beneficial for both. In this case, Trump gets Fox telling Republicans that this entire investigation is a corrupt action that shouldn't be treated as damaging to him. That keeps his Republican opponents from using it as a cudgel against him in the race. And Fox gets an opportunity to bring back some of the viewers that have strayed in recent weeks.
And as you look at the visual chyron, folks, the breaking news, Trump indicted, and at the same time, it has this is just really, you really have to count on your audience to be just dumb. While these talking heads, they put next to them a graphic, the counts: mishandling of classified info, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to obstruct, destruction of documents, espionage act. Listen, man, if I'm over there working for them, I'm not even going to put that on the screen. Because I mean, if I'm just a regular viewer and I'm seeing this is all made up, and then you start listing these things, it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, one of the Fox's strategy has a couple of parts to it. One is to try to limit discussion as much as possible of what Trump is actually accused of doing, and what the evidence is that he had done it. And the other is to claim that the former president has been treated differently than other people. So there's a lot of whataboutism, a lot of talk about Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and so on and so forth. And the sort of cacophony of conspiracy theories that they've been putting out about Democratic politicians for years and years. The fact that none of these things ever result in real sustained criminal investigations that lead somewhere is for them evidence of the corruption of the FBI and the Department of Justice, not evidence that they're just spewing a bunch of
to rail against the system, the deep state, and this is all what this is. If you had a chance, Matt, to look at any of the other cable networks or any other coverage and how they've been dealing with this in the past, but really 24 hours, barely about 12 hours or so.
I've been pretty narrowly focused on the right-wing media. I think we're seeing basically the same sort of stuff out of Newsmax and OAN and sort of up and down the right-wing media blogosphere. They're all, at least for now, rallying pretty strongly behind Donald.
It is interesting, too. I noticed Mike Pence, after hitting him hard in his announcement the other day, now saying he thinks this is wrong. So everybody's kind of, on the one hand, they're running against him and whatnot, but they're also denouncing the indictment.
Yes. The play for every Republican presidential candidate right now is to rail against all of the indictments into Trump's various alleged criminal activity, and simultaneously pray that they force him from the campaign trail. If they don't force him from the campaign trail, of course, what they're doing is telling their support, telling Republicans that the allegations are meaningless, and in turn, they are helping Donald Trump. Interesting with Mike Pence, I thought, was that he was supposed to be on Hannity last night and reportedly dropped out because he didn't want to talk about the indictment at that time. That would have been an opportunity for him, or that would have been a interview that would have forced him to make a very difficult choice very publicly about how closely he wanted to view to Donald Trump. On the other hand, Senator Tim Scott, another one of Trump's Republican theoretical opponents, was on Fox News yesterday evening and asked about this, and basically, did not criticize Trump in any way. Basically, said a bunch of word salad for a minute or so, but very clearly was not comfortable criticizing Trump on Fox at that particular moment.
Well, no, that is Tim Scott. He is the word salad chef in most respects, and I guess too, people are just afraid of what the base might do. You mentioned OAN and Newsmax again. Back to the baseline point. Fox is competing with those networks, so you've got to do whatever you got to do to compete for that. You got to be as unhinged as possible and defend Donald Trump under any and all circumstances. Even though this is not on its face, I mean, this is not a very complicated thing to prove. You either took documents home or you didn't. And we know he has them. He's not really denied that. I mean, it seems to me to be sort of an open and shut case. The news has broken about the judge. Have you had a minute to look at that coverage and how that has been handled, particularly by Fox and the right-wing media? The judge is a Trump appointee.
I haven't seen much coverage of that yet, though it's still early, and who's to say where the primetime hosts will go when it comes to that.
Yeah. And look, what do we also know? We know from the Dominion suit that these characters will go on Fox and say these things, but behind the scenes in text messages, they'll be like, hey, we're doing this, but it's stupid, and we shouldn't be doing it. So, we can probably speculate there's some of that schizophrenia still going on over there on the part of some people.
I think it's quite clear that Fox hasn't learned anything from the Dominion case. I mean, we were talking about how Fox is in competition with all of these other networks, and that is part of why they are covering the story in the way that they are. And that's very much what happened with the Dominion defamation. Fox hosts and executives knew that Trump hadn't stolen the election. But their viewers were leaving them because the network was not being perceived as pro-Trump enough. And so Fox recalibrated by pushing out these nonsense allegations about election fraud. I think we're seeing something similar now. I mean, there's no perceived financial benefit in telling the truth until you get sued.
Lastly, where's Tucker? And even in this, what's happening now, is he resurfaced anywhere or on social media? Have we heard from him even in terms of this indictment?
We haven't heard of him in terms of this indictment. He has started his Twitter show. He kicked that off this week. Is very not very good. Tucker is someone who has been on cable news his entire career. He's used to working with a big team of producers and camera people and having lots of flashy graphics behind him. And now he is speaking direct to his camera from what appears to be a shed somewhere in jacket and tie. He looks small. He looks weak. And he is simply not having the impact that he did. His first Twitter video got some attention, but the second one just dropped like a rock. No one paid any attention to it at all. So, when Tucker Carlson is on Fox News, he's a very influential and powerful figure. But on Twitter, he's just another guy yelling into his camera.
And Twitter does not always lend itself, in my opinion and in my observation, to long form sit down situations like that. You know, we go on Twitter sometimes and we're at a live event or something. But then people come and go because that's the nature of Twitter, just like Instagram. It's not something, we just don't sit and just look at Twitter like that for hours. So I don't know what he's thinking, but the alliteration in the Chiron is kind of cute. Tucker on Twitter. That's clever, I guess. So we will see what happens. Matt Gertz, Senior Fellow, Media Matters for America. Folks, follow all of this at MediaMatters.org. Media Matters and Matt Gertz. Monitor Fox News and these other crazy networks so you don't have to. But you still can find out what's going on by checking them out, MediaMatters.org. As always, Matt Gertz, we appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. As always, perform an act of kindness on behalf of an elder or young person. Write a letter to a sister or brother who just so happens to find her or himself incarcerated. Offer libations to the ancestors upon whose sturdy shoulders we all now stand. And above all, give thanks to the God of your understanding by whatever name you call her and him. All God asks of us is that we give each other love. Thanks for giving MIP love. And please remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.